Dallas Cowboys OTAs going down at the Star in Frisco, Texas, before heading out to California in Oxnard. Mike McCarthy going 6-10 in his first season with the Cowboys. Last season improved that to 12-5, including winning the NFC East. The Cowboys will at least try to run that back. They lost to the 49ers in the wild card round, though. But as you see in the NFC East, 17 straight seasons without a repeat champ, the longest such streak by any division in NFL history. Let's welcome in Emory Hunt to talk about the Dallas Cowboys and their outlook right now. They are the favorite to go ahead and win the NFC East, but as we mentioned, there's 17 years of not having back-to-back champs. How easy or tough will it be for the Cowboys to do that?
It will be tough, but I do feel like they will be able to do exactly that and repeat as champs. This is a very good football team. When you look at them from top to bottom, their two deep is always stacked with talent, and they have the best quarterback in the division in Dak Prescott. And people have to remember, this is a guy that's coming off of that gruesome ankle injury. He'll be 2 years removed from that. Quiet as kept, he had his best season last year coming off of that injury. So now getting back to what he was prior to that, I feel like being able to get outside the pocket and move a little bit better than he did last season. This team will be one of the better teams in the NFC and are considered, I know people will hate to hear this, Super Bowl favorites because of how good they are on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, not a lot of people agree with you. Some will. Cowboys fans will be happy to hear it. Let's talk about if the Cowboys took a step back. Obviously, you don't think so. Dak Prescott agrees with you. No more Amari Cooper, no more Randy Gregory, no more Connor Williams, Cedric Wilson, among others. So Dak Prescott defending his team, saying this to The Athletic. He said, quote, "We know what we have in this locker room and we know what it can be. Talent is one thing, but if you don't fulfill it, it really doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really mean anything. We got young players that just haven't had a chance to make a name for themselves. I know what this team has and the men that they have and the coaches and the leadership. We definitely didn't take a step back." What are your thoughts on that, Emory?
Completely agree, and I'll add some caveats in there. You talk about Connor Williams. Some may have viewed him as a liability, so I feel like they improved in that area with Tyler Smith. They drafted him out of Tulsa. Some people may say La'el Collins leaving is a huge gaping hole on the right side. Well, they had Terrence Steele, who's quietly gotten better every season he's been with the Cowboys. Randy Gregory was a good player, but how often are we talking about whether or not Randy Gregory will be out there on the field? So I feel like that's a wash. Plus, you get Lawrence back up front. You have some more talent you bring in. You sign some defensive ends. You drafted one in Sam Williams out of Ole Miss. So for me, they got better by staying pat and maybe trimming some of the fat off the roster. And as long as number 4 is back there under center, he gives them more than enough chances to win games. And I feel like that's the biggest key. As long as he's there and some of the pieces that they've added or drafted that have gotten better, they're going to plug and play and move forward.
So let me ask you that. What is their best offseason move? Who helps them the most?
It's off the radar, but I feel like James Washington was a sneaky underrated move. He was one of the receivers in Pittsburgh that didn't get utilized a lot. He's a straight go ball receiver. He reminds me a lot of what they have on a roster in Michael Gallup, someone that wins off the line initially, is able to stack the defensive back and accelerate to the football. I feel like when you look at him, Gallup coming back from injury, along with CeeDee Lamb, this is going to be a go ball offense. We're going to see these guys work touchdown or check down in the passing game. So I feel like James Washington getting this opportunity to showcase why he is someone that should have gotten the ball a little bit more so in Pittsburgh.
CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 1, he says he's been preparing for this moment his entire life. Of course, recently we heard Jerry Jones talking to the media there in North Texas, saying that he thinks CeeDee is better than Amari Cooper. What do you think CeeDee Lamb's outlook looks like as a clear-cut wide receiver 1?
He has gotten better every season statistically. I know he wants to clean up on some things. You talk about 8 drops last year. 6 times Dak Prescott targeted him. They ended up in interception, so he probably wants to clean up a little bit of the consistency in terms of how he's running his routes. But other than that, he can catch the ball. He's a catch and run guy. He does a great job in trying to score the ball once he has it in his hand. So when you look at someone that's young, athletic, eager, and aggressive, all of those things, all of those boxes he's checking, leads me to believe he's going to have a breakout year once again. Almost 1,000 yards as a rookie, had 1,000 yards last year. He may flirt with that 1,200 number this season.
MICAH Parsons, I want you to make the case, and I know Cowboys fans will love this, for Defensive Player of the Year. So last year went to TJ Watt, got 42 votes. MICAH Parsons got 5. Aaron Donald got 3. make the case for Micah Parsons to win it this season?
Well, TJ Watt won't have the season he had last year, so by default, Micah Parsons should win Defensive Player of the Year. Probably should have won it last year. He would have gotten my vote. You talk about someone that had 20 TFLs. That is setting up prime property on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage. 13 sacks. And keep this in mind. This was what made what he did last year so impressive. He didn't play in 2020. So all he did was try to get his football legs en route to being the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Now he has a better grasp of what's going on with the system. He has a better grasp of NFL speed. He knows the playbook. He understands what has to happen, and he's going to be counted on. He's someone that is embracing the challenge. And I think he's going to smash those numbers he had last season. So, yeah, if he does that, even if he plays like he did last season, he could win it. But I feel like he's going to supersede those numbers and do a great job in winning Defensive Player of the Year. Hopefully, I made the case.
Dive into that a little more. What makes him so lethal?
Because when you look at him, you think, okay, this is an inside linebacker, but it blew everybody's mind last year when he lined him up on the edge and had him rush as a defensive end. He was dipping under offensive tackles and accelerating flat to the quarterback. So when you have someone that can essentially fill three roles, an inside backer playing your tackle-to-tackle game, your outside backer being able to cover tight ends and backs and drift in zone coverage and make plays on the ball like he did, or a defensive end that could put his hand in the dirt and get after the quarterback better than some defensive ends that have been doing it their whole football career. So he is a 3-in-1 player, a special talent, and he's just scratching the surface.
Okay, so far you're upgrading basically the entire Cowboys team. You're upgrading CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons. Let's talk about Trayvon Diggs there. 11 interceptions last season. Can he sustain that same success after the incredible season we saw last year?
You know, that's a great question, Amanda. And, you know, because I'm such a master of linguistics, here's the thing. Sustain is a tricky word because that means he's going to be able to get 11 interceptions, you know, every year. That's a lot of luck. I would say no on that front. But in terms of getting better, absolutely. You talk about someone that has gotten better in terms of playing the football. 14 PBUs as a rookie, 20 last year. I think that number shows you he's getting better in that regard. Where he can improve and really elevate his game is being better in coverage. Because a lot of those interceptions, we tend to focus on that. We focus on the pick six. But if you go back and watch the film, you'll see he's giving up a lot of yards and the quarterback's just not going his way. If he can improve in that area and become a true lockdown corner, I think the sky's the limit. He may even flirt with Defensive Player of the Year if he's able to improve in coverage while also being able to get that interception luck that we like to see.
Dallas Cowboys are tied with the Commanders for the easiest schedule in the NFL next season. Is there a particular part, if you had to pick one, that's a stretch in their schedule that you're like, you know, this is a little questionable right here, I'm a little nervous? What part would it be?
I would say weeks 10 through 13 because you have some NFC Titans in there. And you have one NFC Titan in there in Green Bay. You have a team that's pesky in Minnesota. You also have the Giants thrown in as the fly in the ointment because you play them before you play the Indianapolis Colts, who should be a favorite in the AFC South. So that's going to be a key stretch of games for the Cowboys. They can't lay an egg in that regard. Otherwise, they could either lose home field advantage or find themselves not winning the division. So I think that's going to be the crucial stretch of games for Dallas this season.
Emory, we appreciate it. I know Cowboys fans love you because you're pumping them up with everything they need to hear, even though, you know, they're like, show me something. I actually got to see it this season. We'll talk to you soon, Emory. Thanks so much. The Cowboys are the favorite to win the NFC East there. You take a look at some of their notable odds over under 10.5 wins. I know a couple of our guys have taken the over there. Make the playoffs minus 280. Of course, they lost to the 49ers in the wild card round, but I will mention they are plus 115 there to win the division, closely followed by the Eagles at plus 185.
Fly, Eagles, fly. And they did last season. They overachieved in Jalen Hurts' first season as a full-time starter. They made the playoffs with 9 wins, and the offense getting a big boost this year. Trading for A.J. Brown, going to help out last year's top pick, Devontae Smith, at the wide receiver position. The offensive weapons, fast and young. 24-year-old Miles Sanders at the running back position. The old dude at the skill positions is Dallas Goedert, the tight end, at 27 years old. For more on the Eagles and what to expect this season and also some future bets, let's bring in Sportsline's Emory Hunt. And let's start with that offense. What are your expectations for Jalen Hurts and company now that they have A.J. Brown, a big-time wide receiver?
I'm expecting a lot of points, and we saw this offense really get into the gear at certain parts of the season. At sometimes they just dominated with their run game, and sometimes they just dominated with the big play in the passing game. But now you add in AJ Brown, you get a healthy offensive line. This offense should be even better than what we saw last season, which was a very good offense, efficient offense. But I feel like now they have the potential to be big play offensively on either side. You talk about run game, passing game, and AJ Brown takes a lot of pressure off of a Devonta Smith. And now, because Jalen Hurts is, best friends with AJ Brown, he doesn't have to force the ball to AJ Brown. They understand the team concept, and I think we'll see a better passing game as a whole.
Yeah, kind of like the Tua situation in Miami. Jalen Hurts has the weapons now to really succeed. Are you buying or selling Hurts making a big leap in his third year in the league?
I'm buying it. When you look at what he does well, he's a leader. He does a great job in playing through pressure, understands how to play through pressure, and also works to get better. And this is a key element of playing quarterback, someone that is not afraid of pressure, wants to get better, wants the pressure on his shoulders. He hears all the naysayers. And I feel like now, when you've added these weapons, he's going to embrace that. We've seen him get better every season as a quarterback dating back to Alabama, even showing some humbleness, getting benched, staying there, competing, working on his craft, going to Oklahoma. And if it wasn't for Joe Burrow's fantastic, ridiculous Heisman year, Hurts's numbers that year were ridiculous in his own right. He probably would have won the Heisman. So I have no reason to doubt that this guy won't improve this season with all of the added weapons now that he's in the second year of the same system. He had never had that since high school. So we should see the best of Jalen Hurts, something we probably hadn't seen prior to this.
And then on the defensive side of the ball, which is where they spent most of their draft capital, they also made some gains in free agency. How much is having James Bradberry opposite Darius Slay going to help both of them and the whole team defend the pass this season?
I love it because it's the yin and the yang. You have a guy that's a little bit more patient in his approach in Bradberry, and a guy that's a little bit more of a risk taker, and they're going to balance off each other. You're going to have the steady presence of a Bradberry with someone like Slay on the opposite side, being able to go and get the football. And also you have Avonte Maddox now sliding to a more natural nickelback role. So now your starting three is excellent. Plus it gives you the benefit of continue to develop guys like Zach McPherson, who you drafted out of Texas Tech, and also someone like Harry Vincent, who you brought in on waivers. So I love the plan here. Getting good veterans, stable veterans that balance one each other out while also sliding Maddox down on the inside, allowing your second-year player McPherson to continue to grow and develop and continue to play a certain role within your defense. I think this was one of the more underrated moves the NFC team made all offseason.
They only drafted 5 players, but a couple of big names from that national champion Georgia defense and Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean. Which rookie do you think is going to make the biggest impact for the Eagles?
I would have to say it'll be Jordan Davis. You think about why? Well, look at where he's going to play. When the Eagles are great, their defensive line is excellent. And you bring in someone that was an excellent defender. People may pigeonhole him as just a nose tackle, but when you look at him and in his quickness, you see potential there. You see someone that can be a one-gap penetrator. You can see someone that could put in the rotation and play multiple multiple techniques up front. And that's going to allow that defensive line to stay fresh, stay versatile, which will make that second level their job even better. So I feel like Jordan Davis, because of where he was taken and how he's going to fit in, you have Hargrave, you have Fletcher Cox. I just think this is going to be a home run opportunity for him to really showcase what he can do. Something that he was asked to do at Georgia was, okay, one gap stuff and let those linebackers make plays. But with Philly, I feel like there's a special role for him that could showcase a little bit of his pass rushing capabilities that we didn't see at Georgia.
And Emory, when you look at their schedule, pretty favorable on the surface, especially at the start. They have the Lions, Vikings, Commanders, and Jags the first 4 games. But which stretch in your mind is going to be their most difficult this season?
I would say weeks 11 through 13, because they could really get out of the gates undefeated before the bye week. But after that, people will say, well, how good are the Eagles? Well, that week 11 through 13 stretch, you have Indianapolis, Green Bay, and Tennessee. The first 2 teams should be leaders in their division. Tennessee is someone that could be a leader in the division. They're going to get a challenge from the Colts. And if the Eagles want to be taken seriously as a team that could go far in the playoffs, these 3 games will tell you how good this Eagles team is, because each one challenges you in a different way. Your defense will get challenged from Green Bay. Your offense will get challenged from Indianapolis. I feel like they'll be a very good defense, as well as Tennessee. We know what pressure they can bring. And all the improvements that you made in the offseason on both sides of the ball will get tested thoroughly in these three matchups. So I feel like that's the key stretch for Philadelphia.
9-8 last season. What's your record prediction for the 22 season for Philadelphia?
Listen, I'm all in on Philly. I feel like 13-4 is a good number for Philadelphia. If you want to say 12-5, I'm good with that. But let it be known, they're going to win over 10 games. I feel like this football team, if they can split with Dallas, 13-4 is where they're going to go. If they can't split Dallas, then 12-5. But I love them at 13-4. I feel like because they're going to be able to run the football, they'll be better defensively, which will help them close out games. I keep thinking of that Chargers game last year when Jalen Hurts gave that defense 3 minutes with the lead, and they let Justin Herbert march down the field, and they got the game-winning field goal. So I don't feel like that's going to happen this year. This defense should be significantly better. So now you'll be able to close out a lot of these games. Now, think because of that, and also now we have a second year in the same system, Nick Sirianni understands what works for this football team. They'll be much better and much more consistent from start to finish than what we saw last year. So 13-4 for me for Philly.
Wow, 13-4 is the record prediction from Emory Hunt. Give us a future that you like on Philadelphia, being so bullish on them this season.
Well, because I went all the way out there with 13, I feel like the best value now is to take them to win a division. I feel like it's at plus 185. So you can take that to get them to win the division. When you look at the other numbers, it's juice to them winning over 9 games. So obviously a lot of people feel like Philly will be good this year, but to win the division, they have to get past Dallas. And again, good value here earlier in the preseason or in the offseason, because if they can't sweep Dallas, they're not going to win the division. I feel like that's the test for them this year in order to hit that number.
Yeah, I'm looking at more future bets. I think they're 14-1 at Caesars Sportsbook to win the NFC. They're 30-1 to win the Super Bowl. If you think this team is good enough to win 13 games in the regular season, do you like either one of those numbers?
It depends on how good this defense is going to be, because you have a team that I talked about earlier in New Orleans that's right down there as well that can be very good on offense. We know how great they are defensively, but low-key, the Eagles have their number the last 2 times they met. But that would be a roadblock. I feel like, Tampa could be a potential roadblock if they have to face that defense again. So I feel like all of what we're talking about here with Philadelphia hinges on whether or not this defense can take a significant step forward and stopping the run, an even better job of turning the ball over and getting off the field on third downs. If that happens and Jalen Hurts is taking the natural progression step forward, yes, they'll be able to beat the Saints. Yes, they should be able to beat Tampa, but that's a lot to ask, which is why I'm only comfortable going with the division. Conference, I have to wait and see.
All right, the over-under win total for Philadelphia is 9. Emory says 12, maybe even 13 wins this season, with A.J. Brown now at the wide receiver position, the big wide receiver target for Jalen Hurts, who's going to take a big step in year 3. So, I mean, Emory, you've got to be pounding that minus 145 over 9 wins if you think you're going to win at least 12, and definitely the playoffs as well. He likes him, though, his best bet to win the NFC East at plus 185.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.